Hey everyone, it's Gordon Einstein. I guess I'm in the shadows because it's getting late here in Kiev, Ukraine, but we are back for the first day of Digital Week Online. This is the most high energy show that I'm involved with today, at least. You can probably tell. I am honored. I am honored on this International Women's Day to have Brittany Kaiser, our privacy expert, our whistleblower, our woman around the internets, come and talk to us for a solid 20 minutes to share her wisdom. And the good thing about International Women's Day is I get to be quiet. Yay. So, Brittany, I'm going to hand this to you. I'm so glad you accepted my invitation to come on to this event. We're honored to have you. Every time you come on, it's a revolution. So I'm going to be quiet, hand it to you. Go.
Brilliant. Thank you, Gordon. And thank you to everyone that has helped organize Digital Week Online. And to all of my ladies out there, happy International Women's Day. It's such a pleasure to be speaking to you all on a day that really is about women's empowerment and about celebrating females who have succeeded in this space and encouraging others to join as well. I know when I was younger, going into technology wasn't the first thing that we were encouraged to do. And now that I'm in my 30s, I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. So what I really wanted to talk to you guys about today is my favorite topic in technology, which is data. Data, which drives nearly everything, every decision that gets made by governments, by companies, and soon even decisions that we make ourselves. So why is data so important? Well, it's the world's most valuable asset. Well, at least that's what The Economist told us in 2017, and it becomes truer every single day, especially with the past year. The coronavirus shutdown, it means that all of us have been leading nearly completely digital lives for the first time ever. We were thrust into it completely unprepared, really. And now we're producing exponentially more data every single day with the amount of screen time, with our digital interactions. And that should lead us all to start really thinking about what our data rights are. If you've never heard the term data rights, I mean, I've been describing myself as a data rights activist for the past couple of years. And that's really because all of us are the producers of the world's most valuable asset. We're producing such valuable data every single day that it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry that, as I said, is driving everyone's decision making. But how do we gain the right to our own personal information that seems to be driving the world's most important global economy? And on International Women's Day, especially, when we're all thinking about how to empower ourselves, how to take care of our families, I think that this couldn't be more of an important conversation. Because if we look back historically, whenever a population has been subject to being exploited, and by that I mean really our most personal assets, if you think back, your mind is going to be better jogged by natural resources that have been stolen by from indigenous populations. If you think about those systems that are extractive, that take value away from us, now you can probably think of most technology platforms as that. For the past couple decades, these platforms have been designed to take away as much value from us as possible. And somehow we found ourselves in a situation where, as producers of the world's most valuable asset, in many countries around the world, we don't really have rights to that value. It's taken from us and it's owned by whichever platform happens to be collecting it. So I've been doing a lot of work and a lot of thinking about this over the past couple of years. And I guess it would be helpful for those of you that don't know me to explain a little bit why I'm the right person to be talking to you about this. Well, some of you guys might know me as the Cambridge Analytica whistleblower, the Facebook whistleblower. And I suppose I'll tell you quickly how I got myself into that situation, even though it's a very long story. But I started working in technology when I was a teenager. when I had the opportunity to get involved in politics and help support ideas and politicians that I thought were going to be the best and the most positively impactful for my family, my community, the world around me. I was part of the first Obama campaign team. So in 2007, I dropped out of college when I was 19 in order to fly back home to Chicago and become part of the team that invented social media strategy. We were the first people to take data off of social media and use that in order to create targeted messaging. And by that, I mean, the more we could learn about what people were talking about online, the better we could understand what was actually important to them, what would be good for them and their communities. And therefore, we could talk to them only about the things that mattered to them: the environment, healthcare, education. And the more targeted we got, or the more data-driven our messaging became, the more we saw people getting involved and coming out and donating and fully being engaged in the political process. And for me, again, as a teenager, I really thought that this was the coolest thing I had ever seen. That of course I needed to learn how to use data in a more sophisticated way so that I could get people to care about things that were important to them. And of course, things that were important to me, get people active, get people aware, and get people involved. And so after I left the Obama campaign, instead of joining the Obama White House, I had been studying as a human rights lawyer. So I decided to go back to college, but at the same time, travel around and teach loads of human rights organizations, charities, nonprofits, NGOs, how to use the types of tools that we had developed on the Obama campaign so that you could get people engaged and involved. As the mantra goes now, the more data you have about someone, the easier it is to engage them, right? So I went around, I suppose, you could call me naive, but I see myself as an eternal optimist. I prefer that term. And I thought, well, these types of platforms are what is going to change the world. This is going to allow people to really communicate their message, and especially the types of organizations I was working with to actually be successful in the work that they were doing, getting people to care about human rights campaigns and engage with government and get active in their communities. So I really thought, these data-driven tools are the best thing. And so I was studying to learn more about data science. I specifically, I suppose, was studying to become a top human rights lawyer and a diplomat. So I was looking into how diplomats make decisions, how heads of state and ambassadors make decisions. And what I learned was that it really is how much data they have access to and how soon they get access to that data. So is it real time? What data sets do the people who are modeling that data, what do they have access to? How well are they analyzing it? How quickly is it getting to decision makers? And so when I realized my law school couldn't teach me much about advanced predictive algorithms, I decided to reach out to friends to see, where I would go to learn these types of things. And turns out one of my dear friends knew the CEO of a small data analytics startup called Cambridge Analytica. So I ended up joining that company while I was studying for my PhD, and some of the tools that they showed me were some of the most incredible things I had ever seen. The first project that they presented to me was, oh, hey, here's how we can use data online to figure out which young people are possibly being recruited into ISIS. And at the time, this was a huge deal. A lot of young people were sneaking themselves into Syria. So they were running a program with NATO and all allied militaries in order to find all of these young people and run counter propaganda communications to keep them safe at home with their families and not being recruited into terrorism and sneaking themselves over the border. So again, I thought, wow, this is mind-blowing work, and I really want to learn how to use these tools. Fast forward a couple of years at this company, and I had been traveling around the world meeting with presidents and prime ministers, or people who wanted to be president or prime minister, tons of big companies, government departments who wanted to use data in order to better understand their citizens, their voters, their consumers. And I realized slowly but surely that the amount of data that existed about all of us was mind-blowing. That literally everything that we've done since we've touched technology has been recorded and then sold and bought and traded around the world without our explicit permission, without our knowledge, and really used by anyone for any purpose that had enough money to purchase or license our data sets. So it started to occur to me that, this wasn't right. Someone that had studied as a human rights lawyer, I always think about individual rights. How do you protect people's individual rights? How do you make people understand what those rights are and how to protect them? So I thought, why don't we have the right to transparency, also known as, fully understanding what data is being collected about us and where it's going? Why don't we have permission structures? So for people to really understand not just what data is being collected, but where it's going and to whom and for what. And if you're not comfortable with it going to certain companies or individuals or organizations, then you should be able to opt out. But this hasn't really been the truth. So how can you stop your data from getting into the wrong hands? You might be comfortable with your favorite brand having your data, but you might not be okay with, a political party having access to your personal information. It's up to you. But I think over the past few years, people are getting more and more iffy about, how people in politics use that data. And so I started going to my superiors and saying, okay, well, I need to talk to more lawyers. I need a data compliance officer. And they kept on saying I was spending too much money and that I shouldn't be asking for advice, that the data scientists knew what we could and couldn't do. And I thought, no, I need lawyers and I need a data compliance officer. And the more I asked and the more I got told no, or got told I was creating too many invoices, what I was doing was expensive, the more I started to realize that what was going on was not the type of ethical structure that I was interested in working in. So it was not long after I started to see some of Cambridge Analytica's clients really abusing personal data that I thought, this isn't the way that the world is supposed to work. This isn't the way that these technologies are going to bring about a revolution. This is actually dangerous, and there needs to be legislation and regulation around this to ensure that people have rights. So I came out as a whistleblower in March 2018 after working for that company for quite a few years, and started working specifically with legislators and regulators on new privacy law, specifically on definitions of our digital assets. So not just personal data, but tokens on the blockchain, for instance, and really thinking through how things that you can't see and can't touch, how can they have very strong definitions so that we have control over them in the same way that we have our physical assets. What I think really lands the plane for some people is when you start to think about what would it mean to really have control over your personal information. And I started a campaign called Own Your Data in April 2018 that was supposed to really educate and bring awareness around this topic, around how can you own your data like you own your house or your car? How do you ascribe property rights to your personal information? Because for anyone out there that's ever studied law, you know that property rights is really one of the strongest legislative frameworks that you can use to protect something. So if you think about it, if I wanted to know who's collecting my data, where it's going, how it's being used, and eventually also get paid for it if it's going to be monetized, I like to think of it like the Airbnb model. So you have your house on Airbnb. So it's your property, it's your asset, you own it, and you're happy for someone to use it on your terms that you set. So if someone wants to use your property, they tell you who they are, what they want to do with it, how long they're going to be there for, and you agree on a price and get paid before you hand away those keys, right? So I really see the future of data ownership looking very much like that. It's a simple and incredibly, wildly successful business model that some new and emerging technologies, specifically think of, smart contracting and tracking and traceability mechanisms within distributed ledger technology, where we can really start to set those parameters and incrementally be paid every time we are leasing out our data for those that wish to monetize it, right? And I don't mean just giving away all of our personal information. What I mean is that certain anonymized data sets, so information about us that is not directly connected to our name, address, our phone number, our email, that we can safely and securely and anonymously share that information with organizations that would benefit from that and that would monetize that. And the reason why that is so incredibly important is because I want to go back to the value of our personal information. As I said, this is the world's most lucrative industry, multi-trillion-dollar industry that right now is completely extractive. Any of the platforms we use that take our information currently own it and they go and monetize it, even though it's our information. We've paid with our time and attention to create that. So it is the value of our work, our time, and somehow we're only starting to get to the point where these trillions of dollars that are being made off of our data, where we can actually at least get a dividend of that. I'm not saying that if a platform, for instance, like Facebook has paid all of this money to create the platform, that 100% of the value needs to go to us. No. There's a concept called the data dividend, which means that the producers get at least a slice of that pie. And so what that really means, the most revolutionary part of all of this, is that right now, you can at minimum make enough money every single day off of your data to at least go to the grocery store, buy your groceries with it, feed yourselves and your family. And during a time when, even in the US, we have at least a 30% unemployment rate, larger than ever before. And around the world, we are seeing even worse rates of employment. We're starting to think about the future of work and how we actually allow people to earn value so that they can take care of themselves. Because a lot of those jobs aren't coming back with all the businesses that have had to shut down around the globe this past year. So we really need to think about how are we going to make sure that people's human rights are secured. And for me, it's easy. I say give people data rights. It means that as long as you have a device or at least a digital ID, all of the data that you are creating, a portion of that value can be ascribed back to you. And you can get paid for being a valuable person, for just existing, for your time and attention, for just walking around with a device in your pocket. And that's what's so exciting. So I think that there's 3 different ways that this is really going to be solved. And first is education. I started something called the Own Your Data Foundation. I co-founded it with my sister, Natalie, in order to educate people on their data rights. We teach something called DQ. It's a digital intelligence quotient, like IQ or EQ, but it teaches you about your data rights and cybersecurity and media literacy. And so if you want to check that out, it's ownyourdata.foundation. So please do check that out, especially for parents and teachers that have kids in your lives. Super important. It's a new IEEE global standard. So this is being implemented into public school curriculums around the world. We're just starting to get there. On the legislative and regulatory front, write to your legislators and say you care about data protection and privacy law, because there's a huge opportunity right now, especially in the United States with the new administration, to start to get more laws through. I've been working on legislation and regulation for years, and we're finally starting to get more countries around the world to write their first data protection or privacy laws to start to ascribe these rights to us. And the third is obviously emerging technologies. I'm a huge fan of blockchain technology, especially, and advanced forms of encryption to make sure that even if it takes a while for the laws in your country to protect you, you can use technology that protects you today. So you can use Brave browser instead of Google Chrome. You can use voice.com instead of Facebook. These are platforms that actually pay you for your time, attention, the content that you create, as opposed to just extracting value. So I'd love for you guys all to try that out. And if you guys want to keep up with any of these topics, you can follow me on social media at Own Your Data or at Own Your Data Now. I'll be wearing a cowboy hat in all my pictures if you're trying to look for me. And thank you guys again. Happy International Women's Day. And so pleased to be here again. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Very good job. I love the cowboy hat. That's beautiful. And what was that? Digital IQ? What was it? What was that expression? Just say that
again.
again.
DQ. If you want to learn more about the curriculum, you can go to dqinstitute.org.
Amazing. Brittany, thank you so much. Just again, really appreciate it. I know you're busy, so this is fantastic.
Absolutely.
So, God bless.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.